The following paid program is sponsored by Henningsen Injury Attorneys.
Hello and welcome to Lawyer Talk, the legal talk show where it is our hope each and every opportunity we get together in a half-hour time span to make sense of the legal jargon and to answer your legal questions and the ones that are most pressing. Questions like, how do I know if I have a case? What are the most common mistakes made when it comes to some kind of a legal case and whether I have one or not? And how much is my case worth? All those questions are going to be answered in the next half hour, and we really appreciate you being with us this evening. Proud to be joined by Todd Henningsen. Todd, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you,
Welcome
David. How
in.
are you? Thanks for having me.
Glad you are here. For the next half hour, we're going to dive into some topics I think that are probably questions that I know I have often, our viewers have often,
Yes.
and try to just kind of answer some of those questions and give them the opportunity to let them know that a sharp attorney like you, that they can bring the questions to you and kind of make sense of it. Does that sound good?
It sounds great to me. You brought up a funny point in that you were talking about lawyer talk, right? So, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he said, we go to law school and you go to all this schooling to learn how to talk like a lawyer. But then you spend the rest of your career trying to unlearn that and talk normally so that people just don't glaze over on you.
Yeah.
So hopefully on this show we can try to do that. We can get to the point where some people are really understanding what's going on and we're demystifying what's happening.
Yeah, sometimes it can be intimidating and questions, you don't know what you don't know. So
Right.
Our hope here for the next half hour is kind of demystified. I like that plan. Now, a little bio and some information on Todd. Todd is managing attorney of Henningsen Injury Attorneys, a statewide law firm that represents victims of serious personal injuries, including auto accidents, truck accidents, working accidents, premises claims. So you really do kind of cover the gamut in your experience. You would never say this, so I'm going to point this out. Really excited about Todd being here because of his wealth of experience and his success in cases, and that track record is impressive. He's been selected to Super Lawyers, which is incredibly prestigious. So we're fortunate to have somebody that really knows what they're doing. So first of all, help us understand who are you? How'd you get into this, and kind of what was your motivation for becoming an attorney?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. So I've been doing personal injury now for 17 years. I started right out of law school doing it. It was something that really resonated with me. I like the idea of being able to help people and work with them to make sure that we're getting a resolution for them, and hopefully a successful resolution. In terms of my practice in my firm, I've had that now for about 9 years, going on 9 years, and I started the firm because I wanted to do things a little bit differently. I wanted to do it the right way. And there's plenty of lawyers out there that do it the right way, and I just wanted to be a part of that. And I think that when we look at personal injury, people are coming to you at a time when they're really vulnerable. Right, they're injured. They have a family member that's injured. They may be missing work. And a lot of people, may live paycheck to paycheck. So we've got a situation in which they're very vulnerable, and we want to be kind of that guiding light for them, so that they understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not a train, that there is some hope, and that we can do good things for them.
Yeah. So you have had some impressive wins. Our viewers, many of them may have seen you on the news or in newspapers, some of those clips of your wins. But kind of, what are some of the bigger wins, just from a bio standpoint, and just to help folks understand a little bit about your practice and your experience? What are some of the bigger wins that you've had in cases?
So some of them are confidential,
right.
And when we call them wins, some of them are verdicts. Some of the wins, though, come from settlements, right? I mean, you feel like you've done a really good job, presented the best case, and the other side sees that. Maybe you're in litigation, meaning a lawsuit's been filed, or maybe you're in a situation where a lawsuit hasn't been filed, and you've convinced the other side that they need to come to the table.
Right.
And so we've had a lot of success. I mean, I've had a verdict for $400,000 when the offer was $15,000 before trial. That was on a slip and fall, and that was a record at the time. That's been a few years ago. But also, on a day-to-day basis, we're trying to get cases resolved for people. I mean, that's the wins that we're getting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you, a show and kind of being a part of something and joining us here. What's your motivation for, for joining us tonight?
So the main motivation really is to give the information out there, all right? To get the information out there and bust some of the myths that are out there. I mean, I think that people have a lot of myths when it comes to specifically personal injury.
Yeah.
They've had an uncle or a friend's cousin.
Everybody's got an uncle that knows everything, right?
That's right, that's right. They've had some experience in personal injury, and then they become the de facto expert on it when really we want to get in here and give real information about what is going on in these cases.
Right.
And I think the other goal is, I get phone calls from a show like this where we're giving this information, and someone will say, and it's really the greatest compliment, I didn't want a TV lawyer, but I saw you on TV and thought I needed to give you a call.
Right.
And my goal is not to be a TV lawyer,
Yeah.
but we have to get the word out there.
Yeah.
And, regrettably, I mean, we have to advertise. I mean, we draw from the consumers. So we want to get our names out there. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing and give people options so they can hear what's going on.
Right. Before we get back into our conversation, we're about to kind of pivot and discuss auto accidents, something that happens if you commuted to work this morning, you saw one. But just a reminder during the show, you're going to want to make sure and write this information down. The website for Todd's law firm, AtlantaPIattorney.com. AtlantaPIattorney.com. And also this phone number is 404-835-4935, 404-835-4935. That's a free call, and there's absolutely no obligation. Todd, some statistics on accidents, not only just in the Atlanta metro area, but throughout the state of Georgia. Amazing the number of accidents. Something that we've got here from the Georgia Department of Transportation, and this was a few years ago.
Right.
I doubt that it's gone down, but a couple of years ago, someone is involved in an accident every 36 seconds
on average,
our roadway.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
It is an incredible statistic.
Yeah.
I think what has happened, just anecdotally,
Okay.
and it's continuing to get worse. I mean, so we have this thing where we have cars are getting safer, right?
They are.
We have great technology, we have crash avoidance technology, but we also have this big other technology which can sit in your hand, and it's the cell phone.
Right.
And the cell phone is a huge distractor. And what we're seeing is distracted driving, at least anecdotally, and I bet empirically we could show this, is leading to a lot more wrecks.
I'm sure.
It really is. And Georgia's changed its laws in regards to hands-free devices, but I still see people, look, if you're driving on 75 or 85 or 285, whatever it is, you see people with the phone up to their ear. It's not supposed to be that way. And I still think that the studies show that it's still distracting even if you're on Bluetooth. I mean, It may be less distracting, but you can still get lost in thought. And that's not to say that we should stop cell phone usage in cars. It's just to be cognizant of it.
Right.
We've got a lot of interstate systems around here, and distracted driving, to me, is one of the leading causes.
Right. What is your first piece of advice to a viewer if they're in the unfortunate event that they're involved in an auto accident?
Wow, that's a great question. So first piece of advice, so at the accident scene, make sure you document it. Okay. And if you're able to.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it may be you knocked unconscious or whatever. I mean, in these very significant wrecks that we handle, they can't do anything. But you're going to have the police out there documenting the scene. You want to get witness information, insurance information. Make sure you call the police. And if you're injured, get the medical treatment that you need.
Okay.
I see that a lot in cases where somebody says, I don't want to be in pain. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And 3 days later, 4 days later, it may not be debilitating, but it's affecting their life.
Right.
And we want to make sure that they get the treatment, because what happens is an insurance company on the other side, what they're looking at is, well, they waited 4 days. They couldn't have been hurt that bad. They waited a week. They couldn't have been hurt that bad. When you just weren't complaining. And we don't want people to complain. If you're legitimately hurt, get checked out.
Right. You said document the accident. Is that an opportunity maybe where those cell phones that can be so problematic actually come in handy?
Absolutely. take photographs. The more information that we have, you may be at the scene and say it seems like a simple collision to you. You were involved in it. But think about what has to happen. If at the end of the road we have to prove this, we have to prove your case to 12 people sitting there.
Okay.
They weren't with you.
Right.
So we need to be able to recreate that event. And so sometimes maybe even the other driver will say, oh, it's completely my fault.
Right.
But they get home and say, well, you know what, I don't want my insurance rates to go up, or maybe it wasn't my fault, or they talk to somebody else, and then they deny responsibility. So you can have that situation. So you want to document that. You want to record the scene. I mean, we had a situation in which the other driver was intoxicated, and my client had the wherewithal to start recording because he said he could not believe how intoxicated this individual was.
Wow.
And so you can describe it, but when you see it, it is pronounced. And so it is something that, a picture says 1,000 words. To me, it was very important.
Right. You talked about someone being involved in an accident and saying some things they regret. How important is it to choose our words carefully in who we do speak with at the scene of an accident?
So, obviously you want to tell the police officer what happened. I wouldn't guess, speculate, just what happened.
Okay.
Because many times an insurance company or whoever's evaluating the claim will rely on one little sentence that's out of context.
Yeah.
And you really want to be careful. You're not obligated to speak to the other party's insurance carrier.
Okay.
Okay? There is no obligation to do that
So
whatsoever.
whether that be on the scene or later if they call you?
We see it a lot of times in tractor trailer wrecks and things like that, where it's significant injuries, there's significant funds at stake. The lawyers get there and the adjusters get there on the scene.
Right.
I mean, they will be called out there. So we want to make sure you're at a disadvantage at that point. They are already planning a defense.
Yeah.
So you need to get in touch with somebody who's going to, you need to preserve evidence, you may need to get an accident investigation performed, things like that. I mean, we're working on a case right now that yesterday I was at an accident site investigating what was going on. We actually got the videotape from the wreck. We discovered it because we canvassed the area and we saw that there was a church that had a surveillance video. So we got it.
Right.
And what's really important about that is that now nobody can not be truthful, let's say,
Right, yeah.
about what happened, because the cameras don't lie on that. So we feel very fortunate to have gotten that, and so there's still questions that we have to answer. So we've hired an accident reconstructionist, and in cases like that, you may have to do that. Not every case requires that. You look at what is the value of the case, what are we going to get from that, how important is it that we really need to spend that money to do it? Sometimes you just don't need to.
Yeah, something you mentioned is interesting to me. So it sounds like immediately an insurance company goes into action, their team springs into action.
Especially on catastrophic cases and tractor trailers.
If
yes.
I'm involved in that accident, where's my team? And maybe that's why you need to hire an attorney pretty quick.
I have a client that I represent right now. We're bringing her case to close, but before I ever got there, she hired me, and she had significant injuries, but she hired me a few weeks later, but there had already been people in and out from the other side.
Right.
Trying to question her. Fortunately, the family was intelligent enough that they saw that no. But they were attempting to do it.
Yeah.
And you never know. I mean, you're not going to say, hopefully you're not going to say anything, but you don't have an obligation to speak to them. There are certain times where you have an obligation to speak to an insurance company, and that's if it's your own insurance company and it's an underinsured motorist claim, and there's things like that. I don't want to get in the weeds on all of that,
Yeah.
but suffice it to say, the other party's insurance company, you don't have an obligation to speak to them.
So what do you say if they leave a message on my voicemail and it's the other insurance company? What do I do? What's my next move?
You don't really have to call them back if you don't want to. The other option is to just say, I'm investigating hiring an attorney right now, and I'll have my attorney contact you.
Okay. For you all, and if I'm not sure, maybe it's not a catastrophic auto
Right.
accident.
Sure.
I'm not sure really if there's anything here. Any cost to a call? Because I think oftentimes, and even for me, that's the barrier. Like I don't know if I've got a case or not. I don't know if it's a big deal or not.
That's right.
Is there any cost? And should I be intimidated at all just to say this is what happened? help me out here.
No, not at all. And we handle all types of cases. I mean, I bring up the catastrophic ones because, when you're talking about those, they have every aspect of every personal injury case in it. Every aspect that you're going to have with investigations and things like that. But we handle what I call the modest but meritorious case, meaning you've been injured. It may not have been the end of the world for you, but you were inconvenienced, you were in pain for some length of time, and you've healed up. Absolutely, we handle those cases on a daily basis. This is what we do. There is no obligation. We work on a contingency fee basis.
Okay, and what does that mean?
That means that if we are not successful on your claim, you owe us nothing. Okay, and if we win, we get a percentage of the win, or the settlement, or the verdict, or whatever it may be. So there really is no obligation. I mean, especially in the phone call, and you shouldn't feel intimidated by that. And I think there really are two types of consumers out there. There's one who says, "Do I need a lawyer? Is that something that I need at this point?" Give us a call, even if you don't know if you need a lawyer or not, because what we want to do in that situation is I'll fairly evaluate it. I don't want to get involved in a case where I'm going to be taking money from you that you could have gotten. I can walk you through the steps that are pretty easy. If it's a simple case, to just call up and this is what I would do, right?
And speaking of call, and just a reminder, great website and a great resource as well. A lot of information on this website. AtlantaPIattorney.com is the website. You're going to want to go there after the show and check that out, because there's again, a lot of great resources educationally for you. And also the number that you're going to want to make note of, 404-835-4935. Again, that number, 404-835-4935. One of the things that I think a lot of folks don't understand is what rights we do have. We don't really know what rights we do and don't have. What maybe sometimes even the questions to ask. Help us understand what rights, if I've been the victim in an auto accident, what rights do I have?
Sure. When we're talking about personal injury, let's just take a quick step back on this. So a lot of people say, do I have a case? Well, first of all, you have to be injured. That's the most important thing. It seems obvious, but some people say, well, my back hurt for a while, but I didn't receive any medical treatment. That's very difficult to prove. Okay, so we've got the injury. Then we have to show that the other party is responsible. Georgia is what's called a comparative negligence state. So we have to show that they're at least 51% responsible. Okay, so there's some interesting things that can happen there. But the other aspect of it, in terms of looking at it, is you need to get the medical treatment and get moving forward on it. Right. I hope that makes some sense to some people.
Yeah. Let me ask you, we know we shouldn't talk to another insurance company, right? Certainly without consulting our attorney. What about signing anything?
No.
I would think that's a bad move.
No, I mean, there are, and I don't know, look, I don't want to vilify insurance companies. Right. I'm not here to make them to be the super bad guy. But I will say that there have been situations that have happened where people have signed on the dotted line. They've signed a release, they haven't consulted with an attorney, and when that happens, there's really no undoing it.
Right.
And what that release means is that your claim is forever barred. And this happened to me a few years back, before I had my own firm. A person called me up and they settled their case for $15,000. The insurance company got to them very quickly. And then it turned out they needed a surgery, and that surgery was 6 figures. They didn't have health insurance. There was ample insurance coverage. I looked at any way I could to try to just undo that settlement, to see what I could do.
Right.
And Georgia's pretty clear in terms of contract law. You sign on the dotted line and it's a full release, it's done. So you don't want to sign anything. Sometimes people get, they say, well, I need, for your property damage, we need you to sign this release. Well, if you don't read that carefully, because property damage is a separate claim than personal injury. Okay. And so you can settle your property damage claim, meaning, the damage to your car, get your car repaired, and still maintain your personal injury claim. But sometimes buried in that release is the general release, and that means that the claim is over and done with forever. Yeah. Personal injury side and property damage side. Right. So we don't want that.
There are some, we love sharing details about our lives, posting cute pictures of our kids on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Is it a good, because I see these all the time. How smart is it to post maybe accident pictures or that you've been involved in an accident on a social media platform?
Yeah, okay, so I'll give you a couple examples of that.
Okay.
But, the first thing I do, one of the first things I do when I'm investigating a case is I'm going to look the defendant up.
Right.
On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have access to databases, skip traces. I'm looking them up.
Right.
I want to know who this person is. And in one specific case, the defendant had posted a picture of his vehicle after the wreck and said, "This is what happens when you drink and drive." Okay, so I don't think you want to post something like that. So, and let's talk about it from the perspective of the injured party. Okay, my advice to my clients is don't post anything about this. It doesn't need to be discussed. As a matter of fact, I like them to get off social media. I understand it's important. People my age, I'm not worried about social media that much. It's not something I'm posting on every day, but I get it. A teenager who is more involved in it, that may be something difficult for them to do. But what we want to make sure of is we tend to post the positive things that are going on in our life.
Right.
Let's say you've got a newborn baby, or you've got a 5-year-old and you're swimming in the pool with him, and you're claiming you've got a herniated disc in your neck, and you're showing yourself throwing him in the pool. Well, maybe it killed you to do that. Maybe it's something that really hurt. But all a jury's going to see, or the defense attorney, or whoever's working on the case is going to see, is you throwing that child, that 30-pound child, 40-pound child, and say, look at what they're capable of doing, and they're claiming this injury. So we want to maintain credibility, and I'm not a person who just says, oh, don't go out of your house, don't do anything. I mean, we want it to be a situation in which you are doing what you're capable of doing, you're being honest about your injuries, and you're trying to get on with your life. We're trying to get you better. I mean, that's the number one goal. You focus on yourself and getting better, and if you call us, then we'll handle everything else.
Yeah.
You just focus on getting better.
Right. I think that's one of the great advantages of having you here, your thousands of cases of experience. You've seen a lot. You've seen a lot of mistakes that people make, like the story you had told there. In your view, as we're getting close to 5 minutes, we could do a whole another conversation just about this topic. It's hard to fit it all in, and there's a lot here. So I want to make sure we really clarify and be real clear. About 5 minutes or so remaining. But from you, what are the top 2 or 3 mistakes that people involved in automobile accidents make, in your experience?
So I think the number one mistake, and we touched on it early on in the show, is delaying getting medical treatment or having gaps in your medical treatment. Let's say you don't have any insurance, right? Health insurance. So you're concerned about an ambulance ride and going to the emergency room and the bills and all of that. That's all, that should be a concern. I get it. I mean, I understand that. But top priority is your physical health. So if you don't want to take the ambulance or you don't want to go to the emergency room, go see a primary care physician. Go into an urgent care clinic. Let's make sure that it's documented, because it doesn't exist to an insurance company if they're evaluating your claim. Your injuries don't exist unless it's in a doctor's report.
Right.
Now that's not the same in terms of if you're going to trial, because you can get up there and talk about what's going on. But we're trying to make sure that an insurance company knows what's going on. And I say this, we prepare every case as if it's going to trial. You have to start and work backwards, forwards, okay? And so when we're looking at these cases, what we want to make sure of is that we've documented everything that's there. And then if the case ultimately settles, that's great. And it's because we've done the right things going forward.
Right.
Cases sometimes don't resolve because there's missing pieces, and the lawyer may have missed that, the client may have missed that, or there may be something else going on. So we want to make sure that we are getting all of that together. So you as the client control the course of the case.
Right.
Some people say, I just don't want to go to trial. I'm not forcing you to trial. My job is to advise you. Your job is to make a decision upon that advisement.
I want you to pick right back up there, but I want it because this is a perfect opportunity again to make note of the information that we're giving you here. AtlantaPIattorney.com. Make note of that website. A lot of what Todd is talking about, you'll find information about that there on the website. Also, the number to call, a free call, it's 404-835-4935. Again, that number, no obligation call, free call, 404-835-4935. So one mistake in documenting the accident and that information. What's another common mistake you see people making?
I think talking to the insurance company. I've seen people who will sometimes state something in a way that wasn't intended. They didn't use precise language, and then the insurance company maybe hangs on that a little bit. I had a case one time where the person said, the insurance adjuster asked, and it was before our involvement, how long were you stopped? And she was using a term of art. It must have been a minute. And if you heard her say it, she wasn't saying it was an actual 60 seconds. Right. She meant it seemed like we were stopped for a length of time. That went in, we ended up trying that case because of that statement.
Really?
And they really hung their hat on that, and the jury saw through it. And you know, my client didn't mean 60 seconds. 60 seconds to sit in a car is a long time to be stopped on the road. So they were arguing she was impeding the flow of traffic. And what it was a term of art she was using, meaning it felt like longer than 10 seconds. So that was one situation that, you know, that case could have been resolved had it not been for that one little sticking point. And, you know, another thing that I see that people do is maybe just don't understand their rights. You know, just even a phone call, even if you don't hire us, even if we decide you don't need a lawyer, now you know your rights.
Just a couple of minutes remaining here. Real quickly, I want to ask this. How often do people just decide to go it alone and pay for that? Because a lot of times people, it's not that bad of an accident. I can just handle this myself.
I think people do it more than they should.
Right.
You know, I've had situations where somebody's called me up very proudly, and you know, maybe they've had a worse wreck, but their first wreck, they're telling you what happened, and they'll say, you know, I obtained $10,000 on this, and I said, well, that was a $50,000 case. You know,
a moment of truth there.
It is. It's true. I mean, I've had a situation where a woman was being offered $5,000, and if she had accepted the money, there would have been a third party who came in to take the money away. So she would have ended up with zero, and we ended up netting her $16,000 and got the offer to $25,000. So, and she just didn't know what she didn't know. But you know, I don't want to create a false sense of urgency, right? I mean, if you're in a catastrophic wreck, you need to pick up the phone and get on it because they're going. But you know, you can take your time to make a decision. It seems simple enough, right? You've been hurt, you're not at fault, the other party is at fault, they need to pay me. But the devil is in the details.
It sure is.
There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down.
Less than a minute left in this this program. In a few seconds, just final thoughts for our viewers. Something you want to make sure just leave with them.
Sure. You know, I think if you're having questions, if you're sitting there, or you have a friend or a family member who's having questions about an injury case, just give us a call. There's no obligation. It's a free phone call, and you know, you'll get the information you need because you don't know what you don't know.
You don't. Todd, thank
you
so much.
David.
Awesome information. What an incredible resource, and I believe answered a lot of questions and helped a whole lot of folks tonight. So really appreciate Todd being with us. Quickly want to leave you with the information. Make note of this. The website again, AtlantaPIAttorney.com. That is the website. Write that information down, and the number to know, 404-835 4935, right there on your screen, 404-835-4935. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Have a great evening, everybody.